Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. Yeah, we've got Lilith back. It's good to see that Lilith is liberated.
Hang on.
And
Sorry. Yes. Happy Halloween, everyone, and apologies for my absence. I return with the blood of my enemies. Suspiciously, no baby blood. Unlike Yahweh, I only kill my adult enemies.
yeah, you didn't. When we went through numbers 30 and 31, you didn't really miss anything. Just a little
I might have missed a bit of screaming.
denying women rights and the raping babies. Nothing big.
Oh no! Some of the babies were also stabbed and carried around on the ends of swords, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah,
Real
don't
swords.
misrepresent the biblical text.
Yeah. God does not just commit one atrocity. He commits all of the atrocities. He has the full bingo card, all of them.
All right. So anybody want to give us a heads up on what Numbers 32 brings to bear?
Oh, we got some
forward
distribution of the land, looks like.
Mm.
So just a few things, right? So I know that RNU and P-Town had quite the discussion yesterday, and we saw P-Town's costume. But I would also like to point out that we have Lilith killing it in that costume, and I think Matt is I don't know, some mid-2000s emo dude as usual. We also have Isaac as a good Jewish mother. And
yes. Where's the diamonds on your hands big enough to backhand your mother-in-law, but you never would.
And then because I did not want to put on a wig, that thing is such a pain in the ass. I had a friend help me with that. Last time.
I can technically put a costume.
Yeah, you do that. Oh, look at that.
Oh no, Toma's a Mormon.
Yeah, he's now the negative of the other image. And then because I did not want to put on a wig, I am going to be Cain from Supernatural with the first blade.
Oh, nice!
And I have the mark of Cain to top it off.
You know, if you grow out your beard, you can braid it, and then you can be a dwarf. Carry an axe around. Smite people with it.
True, I could do that. I could.
Hey.
What?
Oh.
I'm on camera.
Also, rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah.
Aaron's the dog whisperer.
We even got friends in England when I grew up there. Thursday nights, right after ER.
Friends, yeah.
I love Chandler and Monica's relationship. It was the best relationship. Forget
It was.
Rachel and Ross.
No, that was a very toxic relationship.
Very toxic.
We were on a break.
You love her. You've always loved her. She's having your child. It's so confusing.
Nothing complicated at all.
Do not eat my snake gloves.
Obviously, you just have to put your puppy on your lap and be the dog whisperer.
Yeah, I just got some extra thick welding gloves for my next serpent.
Very nice.
Ooh.
I'm looking at a viper.
Oh.
Okay.
Why not an app?
Who's reading today? What'd you say, Lilith? You wanted to do it? Oh man, okay.
Are we gonna power through numbers?
Yeah, because we only have what? Is this
Four
three
chapters.
chapters? 3 chapters left?
No,
we're doing 32, so inclusive of
5.
36,
We have 5.
5.
Wait.
Oh yeah.
Wait, did you finish 31?
We have never done 5 chapters.
We finished at 21.
I was thinking what we could do for 32 is there's a lot of words in here, but maybe someone, if you want, we could someone could read it, and then Tom Eric could go in with his Nephi voice, his Nephi voice, and say the name of the town, you know.
The Reubenites and the Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw the lands of
Nephi.
Jazer and Gilead. No Bible ribbon for you. Okay, so
Yeah, I propose Lilith.
okay.
Read up
I
to
bow
19.
to the will of the people. We finished 31 though, fully.
Yes, we did.
Very good. Oh, there's lots of other stuff that you would naturally forget after the genocides. Anyway, Numbers 31. The Reubenites and Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw that the lands of Jazer and Gilead were suitable for livestock. So they came to Moses and Eleazar the priest and said to the leaders of the community and said, Ataroth dibon Jazer nimra heshbon eleha
El Ale.
sebam eleha yeah.
El Ale.
El Ale sebam Nebo and Beon. The land the
Are
Lord.
those words?
Their names, dear.
City
The
names.
names.
Imagine they're in Klingon. That makes it easier. The land the Lord subdued before the people of Israel are suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. If we have found favor in your eyes, they said, let this land be given to your servants as our possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan. And Moses said to the Gadites and Reubenites, shall your countrymen go to war while you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from going over into the land the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea and took over the land. After they went up to the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, they discouraged the Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given them. And the Lord's anger was aroused that day, and he swore this oath, because they have not followed me wholeheartedly. Not one of the men 20 years old or more who came up out of Egypt will see the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not one, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite. I'm sorry. There's a break in the line here, and I'm like, what the?
Well,
Yeah,
Caleb,
Caleb, son of Jephunneh. Jephunneh.
in Hebrew it's Yefuneh, but
Yeah.
English.
Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, it would be Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun. For they followed the Lord wholeheartedly, and the Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he made them wander in the desert 40 years until the whole generation of those who had done evil in his sight was gone. And here you are, a brood of sinners, standing in the place of your fathers and making the Lord even more angry with Israel. If you turn away from following him, he will again leave all this people in the desert, and you will be the cause of their destruction. Then they came up to him and said, we would like to build pens here for our livestock and cities for our women and children, but we are ready to arm ourselves and to go ahead of the Israelites until we have brought them to their place. Meanwhile, our women and our children will live in fortified cities for protection from the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every Israelite has received his inheritance. We will not receive any inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, because our inheritance has come to us on the east side of the Jordan. Then Moses said to them,
Yeah, stop there.
Yeah, okay, good. So, somebody wants Christmas early.
I did find it interesting that your translation added women and children rather than just children.
Well, I was not under the impression that the Israelite women went to war, but I suppose it's nice to be remembered as existing.
Yeah, it's interesting that they added the word. I mean, the words that is in 30, it says women and children, and the word used for children, tough, is the same word that is used here, but it doesn't say women. It just says you're tough. So it's possible that the word could mean like your dependents.
Yeah,
but it's interesting that in 30 they're differentiated women and tough, and here they are just it's interesting.
Yeah, that's what Milgram actually says. He writes that the term tough can include women, as in verses 17 and 24.
Right.
Fair enough.
That's interesting. Yes, it makes sense to translate it as both if you want to. Okay. Okay, so
I basically, and one would assume that this would also include the elderly and the young boys and anyone who was not suited for war. I mean, 13 is the age of manhood, but 21 is the age of military service. Presumably, someone's going to be home herding the goats.
yeah, I guess it's only interesting that they're 2 chapters apart, and it seems to be that they're using the word in a different way.
I mean, I would argue it's not terribly different in terms of actual meaning, but fair enough. I mean,
Yeah. All right. So should I start the
Yes.
Thomas commentary?
Yeah, just let me read a
Oh.
comment first. Living
Sure.
pterodactyl immurement, therefore squawk knee. What a name. Living pterodactyl immurement, therefore squawk knee.
I mean, I think Nee changes his display name like every show.
Yeah.
Only the Nee at the end is the same.
It offers $2 and says, what's this?
I expected that.
Will they fortified with ditches and dirt walls? Maybe I should have read that earlier.
Well, they said that their families are going to live in the fortified cities and then they'll go over the Jordan and help kill everybody. But presumably they've also destroyed the fortified cities. So I don't know. Are they going to take over the ruins and rebuild them? How long is that going to take?
Well, they've taken over quite a few of them, right? So for a lot of the for a lot of these fortifications, you probably wouldn't be completely demolishing them.
No, they don't have.
Yeah, it does say stay in the fortified towns, which could mean the ones they built, or it could mean the ones that
honestly,
they.
for me, it seems
Okay.
like this is really just a plot device, so it doesn't. It's not like reality matters, but yeah, logically.
Right. All right. Let's start. Thomas commentary. So, verse 1: the Reubenites and the Gadites. Several commentators note that in this chapter, as well as in Joshua 18:7 and 2 Kings 10:33, the order is reversed. The order Reuben Gad has been explained as Reuben being the firstborn, according to Ibn Ezra. Licht writes that the order Gad Reuben in verse 2 is meant to indicate the real balance of power between them. Milgram writes, although it may be claimed that this verse was altered to bring into conformity with the genealogical scheme of Reuben as the firstborn, there may be another reason. The order Gad then Reuben appears 7 times in this chapter. In order not to break this pattern, the sequence of the tribe in this first verse was reversed. The Samaritan text, however, put Reuben ahead of Gad, but the fact that the towns of Gad precede those of Reuben in verses 3 and 34 through 38 clearly signifies that the order of Gad Reuben is original. The Samaritan text then reflects the hand of a harmonizing redactor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Rashi says like so the first verse puts Reuben first because he's older, and then from then on it puts Gad first because he was the one who had the idea. They were the ones that had the idea.
That was Ibn Ezra, not Rashi.
Oh, Ibn Ezra. Yeah, you're right.
We also
I always have those two open.
We also shouldn't overlook the closeness of this text to Deuteronomy 3:12 through 20 either. So in that section, of the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Aroer by the Arnon Gorge, including half the hill country of Gilead, together with its towns. The rest of Gilead, and also of Bashan, the kingdom of Og. And then it goes into, I guess, more detail.
Yeah, these chapters in Deuteronomy are like a historical review of what they've done previously. So.
Yeah, essentially, like in my view, at least, this was. It's actually unclear for that passage of Deuteronomy specifically, but so they either could have come from the same source, or the author here would have used that section of Deuteronomy and then kind of expanded on it. We've had that before, where there is some ambiguity, right? Like with the calf narrative, there's the inclusion, at least in Exodus, of the fact that it's a golden calf, which I don't think is in the Deuteronomy version. So there is some clear expansion to that. Yeah, so it looks like this the author here is doing much the same thing.
It's interesting how for so long you clearly had these tribes with these associated names, and how the story of them being brothers and Ephraim and Manasseh technically being nephews, sons of Joseph, all comes in a later narrative that's then, everything's kind of worked in to make it and to provide cohesion amongst this group and distinguish them from all the other tribes in the land that already existed. And it's produced some truly horrible attitudes. Here's our land. Who cares about the people who lived here for centuries? But colonialism makes so much sense.
Right. Verse 4, the land the Lord subdued. The word subdued is translated from hika, literally smote or struck, like in the KJV, Levine, and Ashley. The Septuagint translates it to delivered, and Targums to Jonathan, Sadigaon, and Milgram as conquered, with Milgram noting that this term is a subtle variation of 21-24, in which Israel is a subject to the same verb.
Subjected,
yeah. Oh, well, the subject. It works the same in English, I think.
Yeah, English is
subject to, yeah. Verse 6, Milgram comments, Moses upbraids Gad and Reuben. Upbraids?
Yeah.
That's a cool expression. I've never seen that before. Moses upbraids Gad and Reuben for their selfish disregard of Israel's unity. This is similar to the accusation against the Transjordanian tribes in the time of Joshua, Joshua 22:16-20, and Deborah in Judges 5:17. Rabbinic tradition also condemns the economic basis of their petition. In Numbers Rabbah 22:7, quote, you find that they were rich, possessing large numbers of cattle, but they loved their money and settled outside the land of Israel. Consequently, they were the first of the tribes to go into exile, in 1 Chronicles 5:26. What brought it on them? The fact that they separated themselves from their brethren because of their possessions.
Right. It's not like the invading army was physically closer to them and therefore conquered them first. It's a judgment because you bastards thought for yourselves. How dare you?
I'm going to read a couple more comments here. Living pterodactyl immurement, therefore, squawk knee offers $2 and says, wait, this isn't Joseph Smith? Isaac noticed.
ISAA.
And then Craig Meiser 666 offers $5 and says, P-Town, can you tell us why the little boys couldn't be taken as servants and made into eunuchs?
I feel like he probably could with big quotes, but I also feel like that would really distract.
It will never.
I wanted 31.
I want to thank Craig Meister for giving me my next license plate.
It's Kriegmesser.
Okay.
War knife.
Yeah.
I think Messer is a knife and Krieg is like war, so war knife.
I could use one of those.
That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold up. I got one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Maybe it's the name of a weapon or something.
I do need a legendary weapon.
Also, I don't understand the Roman numerals.
Okay, I think we should continue.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Verse 8. This is what your fathers did. Levine comments, Moses' present rebuke is harsh. It compares the request of the two tribes to remain in Transjordan to the attitude of the previous generation of Israelites who objected to undertaking the conquest of the promised land and who desired to remain in the wilderness. And yet the comparison is understandable if one considers the priestly view that the promised land lay west of the Jordan. One sense in priestly writings, extending into the book of Joshua, a pronounced policy of regarding the Transjordanian Israelite settlement as illegitimate. To remain east of the Jordan was in effect to remain outside the promised land, to refuse to undertake its conquest. Verse 12, the Kenizzite, or Kenizite. Milgram comments in 13:6 and 34:19, Caleb is a Judite. In Joshua 14:6 and 14, he is a Kenizite. The latter is implied in Joshua 15:17 and Judges 1:13 and 3:9. Surprisingly, the Septuagint renders, but here only, who was set apart. Sorry, I'm confused, Tom.
I think it adds who was set apart. Let me just check real quick.
What verse we're looking at?
12.
Oh, okay, so it's just the end of the sentence. Okay. Surprisingly, the Septuagint renders, but here only, who was set apart, echoed in the rabbinic tradition that he separated himself from the advice of the other scouts. Talmud, Tractate Sota 12a and 34b. Perhaps the Alexandrian translators did not want to admit to their non-Jewish audience that the brave and faithful Caleb could originally have come from a non-Israelite clan. So they changed it to Judah instead of
the Septuagint reads, there are Caleb, son of Yefuneh, who had separated himself. That's in my version.
So they've rendered the word Kenizzite rather than meaning from a different tribe entirely, but as a title.
Yeah, there is one from Ashley, however.
Ashley notes that that First Chronicles 4:1 through 23 encompasses the offspring of Kenaz within the offspring of Judah, which shows that by the time of the chronicler, the two groups were considered to be closely related. Okay. Verse 17, we will arm ourselves for battle. The Hebrew is Nechaletz Chushim. Targums, Saadia Gaon, and traditional commentators rendered Chushim as hasten, based on the verb Chet Vavshin. While Levine and Licht support this rendition, Ashley writes that it doesn't seem to fit the context. The Septuagint, be a vanguard, and the Vulgate, as well as the Peshitta, be armed, reading Chamushim instead of Chushim. Milgram notes that the Akkadian cognate, Chumashu, warrior's belt. So yeah, be armed kind of makes sense in that sense. Yeah. Ashley writes that most scholars support reading Chamushim either as to be arranged in groups of 50 or referring to organizing the army in 5 main groups: the vanguard, the rearguard, the middle, and 2 flanks. All right, Chamushim. Verses 20 to 22.
No, we haven't written them yet.
Okay.
All right, get down, doggy. Get down.
And we can continue now?
Yeah, let's continue reading.
All right. Sorry, I wasn't sure if Aaron was talking to me or his puppy, who is adorable. Yes.
You see this?
Aww. Oh, the fuzzy kisses of love. Dogs are better than gods.
You're a problem. You're a problem. Okay, continue, please.
Verse 20. Then Moses said to them, if you will do this, if you will arm yourselves before the Lord for battle, and if all of you will go armed over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out before him, then when the land is subdued before the Lord, you may return and be free from your obligation to the Lord of Israel, to the Lord and to Israel. And this land will be your possession before the Lord. But if you fail to do this, you will be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. Build cities for your women and children and pens for your flocks, but do what you have promised. The Gadites and the Reubenites said to Moses, we, your servants, will do as our Lord commands. Our children and wives, our flocks and herds will remain here in the cities of Gilead. But your servants, every man armed for battle, will cross over to fight before the Lord, just as our Lord says. Then Moses gave orders about them to Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun, and to the family heads of the Israelite tribes. He said to them, if the Gadites and Reubenites, every man armed for battle, cross over the Jordan with you before the Lord, then when the land is subdued before you, give them the land of Gilead as their possession. But if they do not cross over with you armed, they must accept their possession with you in Canaan. The Gadites and Reubenites answered, your servants will do what the Lord has said. We will cross over before the Lord into Canaan armed, but the property we inherit will be on this side of the Jordan. Then Moses gave to the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the whole land with its cities and territory around them. The Gadites built up Dibon, Ataroth, Arorer, Atroth, Shofan.
You're casting a
Gezer,
spell, aren't you? Dion
Yogbeha,
Ataroth. Atroth. Shofan Gezer.
as fortified cities. Wait, I need a magic rock. As fortified cities. And built pens for their flocks. And the Reubenites built Heshbon, Eleha, and Kiriathaim, as well as Nebo and Baal Meon. These names were changed. And Sibma. They gave names to the cities they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead, captured it, and drove out the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to the Machrites, the descendants of Manasseh, and they settled there. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, Yair, a descendant of Manasseh, captured their settlements and called them Havoth Yair, and Nobah captured Kenath and its surrounding settlements and called it Nobah after himself. The word of the Lord.
I had to look up. I actually had to look up where the Jordan River was.
Well,
I'm admitting
it's
it,
border,
and it's amazing to me.
It's right at the border between Israel and Jordan.
It is. It's amazing to me because the promised land that's alluded to here, or just stated, is exactly what Israel has now.
No,
amazing.
not really.
Yeah.
When we get to
Except
34,
Yeah.
well, when we get to
talk about the
34, then
borders.
the lands, the borders are. It includes. Well, it doesn't include
It includes-
the Negev, but it includes like most of Lebanon and some of Syria.
And also a bit of the modern day Jordan as well. Yeah.
Not
I-
necessarily.
Oh, I
Not
think some of those bit, like the east side of the Kinneret, I think is considered. Maybe I don't know.
Well,
I
so
gotta read a couple more
all
comments,
of the
but-
Israelites are disbanded, and they unite back to the promised land, almost precisely the way the Bible
Yeah, that's the
describes.
thing about an artificially fulfilled prophecy at the end of World War II.
That was like the purpose. That's what they wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's almost like a
So
bunch
it-
of Christians took
it's
the book
like
and
the
went,
only prophecy that you can verify was actually a prophecy. It was the only one that really was a prophecy and was fulfilled because it was artificially fulfilled.
now,
anyway.
now.
All I'm saying is I just looked up for the first time where the Jordan River was and went, "Oh, that's cool." Forgive
You also
me,
said some
Aaron.
other stuff.
Yeah, that's not all you said. You also said some stupid shit. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Just want to say.
Living
actually-
pterodactyl immurement, therefore squawk. I don't know what any of that means. New member says offers $2 and says God's just a statistic, number you can't count to.
I think that was
did
part
not
of a
know-
conversation.
I did
that
not
was
know that
happening
was
in
the
comments.
definition of a statistic.
And then the unlucky legume offers $6.66 and says, "Could we please get a Falcor update?" Yes, Falcor is right over there. He is still hobbling about because he has one injured leg and he's on drugs. So, and I've been instructed to keep him restrained, keep him on a leash, don't let him out. He's on drugs that are supposed to slow him down, but they have little effect, and he's stupid. So he has to be on a leash.
Speaking of animals, right? So I was at a Halloween party on Saturday night, and
With your
the
date.
yeah, and it was a lot of fun. And the place we went to, they recently, I guess they had like some stray cats around, and one of them was pregnant and gave birth to like 6 kittens, and they are just housing all the cats for now. And I'm definitely looking into. I got to meet all of them; they're great, and I'm definitely looking into adopting at least one of the cats. So yeah,
Oh.
hopefully that is what happens soon. So they were
Do they have what do they look like?
cats.
Orange cats, black cats, gray cats,
Yeah,
tortoiseshell.
it was
All the
few different
breeds.
colors.
Cats.
Like there was a black cat and an orange one, and like I guess a beige one. Yeah.
Speak of the devil.
Oh, hello, a kitty.
The devil holding a
Say
cat.
hi to all of the atheists there, Watson.
Yeah.
I got
What's
I can't bring in any of my cats because I'm in the dog room.
Watson's like, let me join them. I am an atheist cat. Pastor Alex says so.
I got one. I got their twins, Watson and Holmes. Like little homie, and it's like Pinky in the Brain. Little homie thinks he's conquering the world all the time. It's kinda cute.
Gotcha. And one last comment is Thomas Shusheki, Puck, offers $5 and says, "Happy spooky sugary night, one and all. We missed you last night, Lawrence."
What?
Yeah.
I didn't miss him. Just kidding. You were there.
I was
Spirit.
around. What are you talking
Oh wait,
about?
that's right.
My brain
We're
melted.
still debating.
My brain melted. Yeah, there was no way that I was going to be able to read all of Lawrence's notes in the amount of time that I read, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to recite all that. Not as intelligently as he would have. Anyway, moving on.
Well, this way I can reference it later, anyways.
Yeah.
Isaac.
Yeah. All right.
Lawrence,
okay.
you can send me some notes. Help me out next time.
None of his
Would it
notes
be
would
useful?
help you.
I'm on one man show here. All right.
I wanted to say, Pecan, the Kingdom of Jordan used to be called Transjordan because it's on the other side of the Jordan.
Those
Isn't it
people
still-
over there on the
isn't
other
it
side of the
still
river.
called Jordan?
No, it's called now the Kingdom of Jordan, but when
Oh,
it
okay.
was first declared independent, it was Kingdom of the Hashemite Kingdom of Transjordan, and then they only changed it to Jordan later. They're like, well, I guess they had the West Bank right like near the beginning.
Mhm.
They're like we're the West Bank and Transjordan, and then they changed it to Jordan. Okay, so let's go Thomas commentary, verse 20 through 22. The term before / against the Lord, lefnei,
Go away, kitty.
I don't know how
Yehovah.
you would say it. Yehovah, yeah. I was going to say Havaya, which is like the religious way of like saying it without saying it. Shem Havaya. Yeah, lefnei Yehovah repeats 4 times in these verses and 7 times in this chapter. Ibn Ezra, Milgram, and Ashley proposed reading before the Ark, as seen in Exodus 16:33 through 34. And the Targums renders it before the people of the Lord. Interesting. Okay, verses 23 and 24. Ashley comments, this statement has become proverbial in its AV dress.
AV dress. The KJV. That's the authentic version, quote unquote.
I think it's the
Is that what
authorized.
Ashley calls? Is that
No,
what
no,
authorized
that's the name of the
authorized
KJV,
version?
yes.
Ah. Okay. In its AV dress. Be sure your sin will find you out. Sin itself is virtually personified as one who will wend its way through any obstacles to find the guilty. See Genesis 4:7, where sin is said to be a demon crouching by the door, waiting to spring upon the one coming outside. In other words, the consequences of sin are unavoidable. This sentence constitutes the curse part of the covenant formulary. The implication is that because Yahweh is involved in the war, a failure to make good on this promise would result in sin, which Yahweh would punish. Only after the blessing and curse are pronounced does Moses agree to allow Gad and Reuben to build their billet. Okay, yeah, to billet their
That's how he said it.
dependence. Yeah, okay.
But
That makes
speaking of
sense,
the
actually.
building new towns thing, isn't that the building towns thing? So Alter notes that the implication is not that they built these towns from the ground up, but that they rebuilt them. And apparently it's a common biblical use of the verb.
Right. Yeah, Ashley continues to say that they billet their dependents and fortify the villages and towns in the area. Verse 24. Verse 29 and 30, Milgram comments, from this double statement, positive and negative, Rabbi Meir in Mishnah Kiddushin 3:4 deduces that every condition that is not like that imposed on Gad and Reuben is not a valid condition. According to the rabbis in Talmud Gittin 75a as well as Bava Metzia 94a, every condition must contain these four elements. 1, it is stated twice as a positive and a negative. 2, the positive precedes the negative. 3, the condition precedes the consequence. And 4, the condition is capable of being fulfilled. So he's saying that the formula for making a legal condition is based on these verses that were given to Gad and Reuben.
Yeah.
And then he says, so it has to have these four elements. Interesting. Verse 33. The half tribe of Manasseh. Ashley comments, the major difficulty in this verse is the abrupt mention of the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. Nothing in the previous narrative has prepared the reader for this reference. The Manassites are dealt with in verses 39 through 42, and it is likely that these verses once formed a separate account that had been edited into its current place in this chapter by verse 33, which forms an editorial link to unify the account of the Manassites with that of the Reubenites and Gadites. The view that Manasseh had a share in the Transjordan along with Gad and Reuben is common in the Old Testament, especially Deuteronomy and Deuteronomistic literature. Yep. I think Rashi or Ibn Ezra brings down like a couple of different ideas. One of them is he realized that the land was large enough, so he just apportioned half of the tribe of Manasseh. I can't remember what the other one, the other idea was, but yeah, something about them being protection or something. That they were a strong tribe. Okay, let's go into the town names. Oh, well, at least one of them. Verse 37, Kiryatayim. It is not mentioned in verse 3. Levine writes that the name Kiryatayim, double town, expresses the typology of dual toponyms. Ashley writes that the Reubenite territory is gathered around the Heshbon area amid the settlements fortified by Gad. Expresses the typology of dual toponyms. Yeah. It's there are a few place names that have this like the ayim ending, which makes it like doubled. Okay. Verse 38. These names were changed. The Hebrew Musabot Shem, Milgram and Ashley wrote that this is an editorial gloss directing the reader to substitute for the last two names, which contain foreign deities. Licht, however, rejects this rendition and claims that there's no evidence for this claim. He writes that the cities mentioned up to here were called by other names, and the Reubenites changed them to the names given here. Ashley notes the opinion of Nordsich, that the gloss should be read as a proper name, although he writes that this is unlikely. Oh, okay. That would be an interesting name of a place.
Yeah. Musabot Shem.
Yeah. Verse 40. Ashley comments, this verse seems to be a parenthesis, for it interrupts the flow of verses 39 and 41. As it stands in the final form of the text, it places the assignment of areas of the Transjordan to the Manassites in the hand of Moses. This is also the point of view in Deuteronomy 3:15 for Gilead and in Joshua 13:8 through 32 for the whole of the territory east of the Jordan. Although Eliezer, Joshua, and the other leaders actually divide the land, it was Moses who had been in charge. The allotment of Canaan, although carried out by Lot in Numbers 26:55 through 56, was also by means of Moses' command in Joshua 14:2. It seems clear that verse 40 looks backwards from that act. Thus, the chapter in its final form probably came together after the period of the conquest and allotment of the land. Many scholars have concluded that verse 40 is an interpolation here, not only because verses 39 and 41 flow better without this strictly extraneous matter, but also because the antecedent of their villages is clearly the Amorites.
Antecedent.
Yeah, that's the people that lived there before.
Yeah. The pre-existent. Yeah, this is one of those chapters that is like multicolored highlighter all over the place because it's clearly multiple source. And even in the commentary, like, oh, everything has to be stated twice. It's almost like they're always stitching together two different versions of a story and restating stuff a whole bunch of unnecessary times all the time. Every single book we've looked at so far.
It's kind of the way the Bible is.
Yeah, because it's a patchwork.
Was everybody else able to hear P-Town clearly? Because that was really quiet.
Well, I mean, I hear him clearly, but it
Am I
is
coming
quiet.
quiet?
Yeah.
Am I talking quiet? How about this?
That's better.
That's
Yep.
a little better, yeah.
I just got to be louder.
Oh,
Didn't do my voice exercises this morning.
try humming. But
Yeah. Well, I speak loud, and I carry a bigger
You're
stick.
wrong. There's nothing in the Bible.
That's strange. That's strange because I would have thought your voice was pretty warmed up already.
I don't know how to turn it up on my end. That's Peter's job.
That's fine. It's fine.
I would like to point out, and it is reading ahead slightly. If you just skip a teeny weeny bit ahead to Deuteronomy 7, verses 22 and 23. It says that it's talking about driving out the nations before Israel so that they can all have their land. And it's, because fuck the people who already live there. And the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you little by little. You will not be allowed to eliminate them all at once, or the wild animals will multiply around you. So you have to wonder how this squares with the 10 pages ago deal we have going on today, where, you've got 3 million Israelites, but God keeps killing them all. And then there's new Israelites, and then they're going to go into the land, but a bunch of them want to stay behind the Jordan. But they're all going to send their men ahead to help kill everybody in the land. But they can't go home until everybody's got their land. But we have to invade slowly, lest the lions and tigers and bears, oh my, should overwhelm us. It is not logicking.
I have a comment from Beamsy, who offers $20 Australian and says, it seems I like that, Potown needs some mental health help with that cry for help. Also, enjoy a beer on me, Aaron. Thank you very much for that. And then Living Pterodactyl Immurement, therefore Squawkney, offers $2 and says, is YEC claim by 06453017 about a Mexican? I don't know who you're referring to. I would have thought it was Kent Hovind, but his number is 06452-017. But it's only off by one digit, so it must have been him. And I'm thinking that, once again, Peter did not copy quite the whole message.
There's a word cave at the end. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're
Now
thinking of a
that was the
younger
entire message.
creationist from Mexico, John Pendleton used to be.
That was the entire message.
Is it?
Let me see if I
Is the
can fix this
YEC
mic.
claim by 064520 by Kent Hovind about a Mexican cave? Mexican question mark cave?
I don't
know how to read that. I'll need
He
clarification
does
on
have a couple of claims about a cave, about a painting of a mammoth fighting a dinosaur, because somebody doodled on. Yeah, and I don't know.
You
if
have to
it's in
really,
Mexico.
you have to really use your imagination and mushrooms in order to see that.
A lot of LSD, LSD, and crayons. Yeah, but John Pendleton, who is from Mexico, did copy paste that, and that's how I was introduced to it via Logic. And his
Yeah,
series.
I mentioned that and even showed it in a presentation that I gave on Houston Oasis called what the hell was it? Flintstones Archaeology.
Yep.
Yeah, I showed their depiction of a Tyrannosaurus battling a mammoth, and it's just natural rock formations that you have to color in the right way, and it's obviously not really there. It's pareidolia at best.
Well,
Ugh.
John
My
Pendleton.
5-year-old nephew has drawn more convincing dinosaurs.
John Pendleton was about to catch a living pterosaur, and then God called him home. Take from that whatever you want.
We all know he died from toxic pterosaur breath.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can tell me differently. They didn't burn everything, and that's why he died.
Okay.
The man paid
$33.
$800 for a fence around a bare piece of land to keep the pterosaurs in. I mean, that's thinking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If you have time, you can always. Logic has a series of science in the 12th century based on Karl Baugh's creation in the 21st century, and where he has John Pendleton as a guest. They go, his intentions to take a team into the rainforest and build an enclosure and trap pterosaurs and tranquilize them with darts and then take their blood and send it to creationist science labs that totally exist and are for real.
The best show that that this guy ever did was Symphonies of Creation, and then he went on and stand on the stage where for the entire show he had the word phonies right behind him. Pretty sure he didn't. Dr. Calbo.
Yeah, the doctor should be in quotations.
Yeah, it's a. Was this the doctorate he gave himself from his non-existent university, or the one he got from a satellite of a university that doesn't exist?
Yep, he made up a university that doesn't really exist.
He made up a couple by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Okay, numbers 33. I mean, I volunteer myself because one, it's
I never thought I'd say I miss your voice, no man.
Yeah, it's.
But I do. I've missed it.
Yeah, I need to return to it. I hope we're going to.
I pass the torch gladly.
But it's not going to be in my usual reading voice because I'm a bit tired. So, I'll read up to 39.
Nope.
These were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron. Moses recorded the starting points of their various marches as directed by the Lord. Their marches by starting points were as follows. They set out from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. It was on the morrow of the Passover offering that the Israelites started out defiantly, in plain view of all the Egyptians. The Egyptians, meanwhile, were burying those among them whom the Lord had struck down, every firstborn, whereby the Lord executed judgment on their gods. The Israelites set out from Ramses and encamped at Sukkot. They set out from Sukkot and encamped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They set out from Etham and turned about toward Pi Hachirot, which faces Baal Zephon, and they encamped before Migdol. They set out from Penei Hachiroth and passed through the sea into the wilderness, and they made a 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and encamped at Marah. They set out from Marah and came to Elim. There were 12 springs in Elim and 70 palm trees, so they encamped there. They set out from Elim and encamped by the Sea of Reeds. They set out from the Sea of Reeds and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. They set out from the wilderness of Sin and encamped at Dofka. They set out from Dofka and encamped at Alush. They set out from Alush and encamped at Rephidim. It was there that the people had no water to drink. They set out from Rephidim and encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from the wilderness of Sinai and encamped at Kivrot HaTa'ava. They set out from Kivrot HaTa'ava and encamped at Chatzerot. They set out from Chatzerot and encamped at Rithma. They set out from Rithma and encamped at Rimon Paretz. They set out from Rimon Paretz and encamped at Livna. They set out from Libna and encamped at Rissa. They set out from Rissa and encamped at Kehelatha. They set out from Kehelatha and encamped at Mount Shafel. They set out from Mount Shafel and encamped at Harada. They set out from Harada and encamped at Makhelot. They set out from Makhelot and encamped at Tachat. They set out from Tachat and encamped at Tarach. They set out from Tarach and encamped at Mitka. They set out from Mitka and encamped at Hashmona. They set out from Hashmona and encamped at Moseroth. They set out from Moseroth and encamped at Bnei Ya'akan. They set out from Bnei Ya'akan and encamped at Chor Hagidgad. They set out from Chor Hagidgad and encamped at Yotveta. They set out from Yotveta and encamped at Avrona. They set out from Avrona and encamped at Etzion Gaber. They set out from Etzion Gaber and encamped in the wilderness of Tzin, that is Kadesh. They set out from Kadesh and encamped at Mount Hor on the edge of the land of Edom. Aaron the priest ascended Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 40th year after the Israelites had left the land of Egypt on the first day of the 5th month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor.
I'm just so confused as to why Tomer insisted on reading this. Why didn't he want me to read this?
Yeah, the Hebrew expert.
My guess is that he wanted to finish it today.
I would have had so much fun.
I just want to know how the hell they ended up in Vegas.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean-
surprised to go through all these places and there's not one mention of either Gondor or Minas Tirith.
Of course not. That's only for interesting mythologies. But they went to the desert of Sin, and then Aaron died on top of a whore. They went to Vegas.
Okay, so they were in Vegas. They just didn't say Vegas. Okay. I think I see. I have backtracked a little bit on the comments. Okay, so living pterodactyl immurement, therefore Squawkney says $2 says live tarot encased immured in rock that flew off. I remember reading that story. It was supposed to be a French railway tunnel in 1851, if I remember correctly, because it was many years that I read this, where these people are digging a subway tunnel for the metro, and broke open a rock in which there was a live pterodactyl in it. It flapped its wings twice, croaked once, and then died. And foolish me, as a 20-something-year-old boy, I believed that story because I believed every fucking thing back then. I was completely credulous. Yeah, I'm so glad I got over that. But it didn't fly off in the story
sure
that I wrote. What?
I said, are you sure you have?
Yes. So Eric Wander gifted one R and Raw membership. Thank you. PhD Tony offers $10 Australian. It says, the new House Speaker is a donor and patron to the Institute for Creation Research. I'm grateful for a lighthearted stream I can laugh through. Yes, he's also a featured writer for Answers in Genesis.
Yeah, he corrected himself.
Yeah, and I actually think I met him because I was at the Ark Encounter and I met a bunch of those guys. I may have actually met him. But I'm doing a couple of videos about this guy. Look for those in about a week or so.
Everyone in the United States, keep your emotional support Canadians handy. Some of us are willing to, marry
Emotional
you for
support
visas if you really
Canadians.
need to get.
Did you just call yourself an emotional support Canadian and say you're
I
willing to
said-
marry an American man? What did you
No,
say?
I said that many Americans have emotional support Canadian friends.
Oh.
Okay. Then PhD Tony offers $5 Australians and says, I stand correct. It's AIG, not ICR. Same shit, different pocket. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. And then Matt White says, Aaron, why didn't Aaron and Moses just fly to Canaan on the back of the eagles? Oh, that's a Lord of
Because
the
if
Rings
you
story.
alert the Dark Lord you're coming, he knows to send the Nazgul after you, and the eagles can't fight them.
Why didn't they just
gonna
fly
ride-
there to get rid of the ring? You know,
They were going to
Gosh.
ride there on the back of the eagles, but Lebowski said, I hate the fucking eagles, man.
And
Sorry.
yeah.
that really long name squat guy. I don't think so.
All right, we have not finished this chapter.
Should I start the
there's no
commentary?
Yes, yes.
All right, let's go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be too much.
yeah, the first part, however, just an explanation of why was the journey mentioned both by Milgram, Ashley, and Origin, which is
Okay,
I
cool.
love.
Can I ask a quick question, Tomer, just to summarize
Yes.
this? Is this the movement of the encampment, and that's it? So it doesn't cover the time when they're, in a location where they're not moving. Is that how this works?
Yeah, I mean, the form of these verses is they set out and encamp. They set out and
It's just about when they're moving, right?
Yes.
Okay, so verse 1. Here are the stages.
Of a cross. Just like
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they definitely marched around in the shape of a cross. That's what it says in the Bible, Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm sure you can make a map and put these places that no one knows where they are, but if you put them and set them in the right place, it'll make a pentagram. Whatever.
Unfortunately, no, it's a little different, but yeah, that would be cool.
Verse 1. Here are the stages in the journey. Why was this journey mentioned? Milgram comments. Why the need for this summary? Maimonides explains in Guide to the Perplexed 350, section 3, part 50, I guess.
Yes.
People would think that the Israelites sojourned in a desert that was near to cultivated land in which man can live, like the deserts inhabited at present by the Arabs, or that it consisted of present meaning back in the
in the
8th century.
12th century. Yeah.
12th century. Yeah.
Yes.
Or that it consisted of places in which it was possible to till and to reap or to feed on plants that were to be found there, or that there were wells of water in those places. Therefore, all these fancies are rebutted, and the traditional relation of all these miracles is confirmed for the enumeration of those stations. The Midrash, Numbers Rabbah 23:1, testifies to a similar motivation. The Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moses, "Write down the stages by which Israel journeyed in the wilderness, in order that they shall know what miracles I wrought for them." The Midrash in Numbers Rabbah 23:3 also records the following view. The Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moses, "Recount to them all the places where they provoked me." The ambivalence of the Midrash is justified. Scripture attests to both motivations for remembering the wilderness sojourn. For example, Deuteronomy 8:14 through 16 and 9:7. Let's see if Ashley comments, the question of the theological purpose of the unit remains. What could possibly be the edifactory use of such a list? How does it witness to the grace of God? It will be helpful to summarize the context. The Exodus generation is dead, chapters 25, and the new generation has been counted, chapter 26, and thoughts have turned once more to life in the land of promise, chapters 27 through 31. Indeed, the inheritance of 2 1/2 tribes has already been granted in the Transjordan, chapter 32. Before turning to matters concerning division of the land of Canaan itself, 33:50 through 36:12, there is time to cast the eye back over the way that has been crossed. The list of sites has the effect of leveling
Did
all
you
the
say
happenings.
crossed? I'm messing around.
The list of sites has the effect of leveling all the happenings of the last 40 years. Level.
How's my mic, by the way? Am I
That's for the
too
flat
loud now?
earthers.
I manually changed it. Do I sound okay? Is it too loud now?
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
Yeah,
You
it's fine.
sound insane.
Sane? Of course.
The list of sites has the effect of leveling all the happenings of the last 40 years. The important sites, Pi-Hahiroth, Sinai, and to later generations, unknown sites, Risa and Mitka, etc. Mitka are all merely stopping places on the road to Canaan, and each stopping place is a witness not only to the leadership of Moses, who is about to die, chapters 27:12 through 23, but also to the mighty grace of God, who led the people on, in spite of all, towards the promised land. The motif of the journey of life is a powerful one in the Bible, and is helpful at points throughout the journey, but especially towards the end, to look back and reflect. This supposedly bare list of site names is a device to help the people of God remember the way they had come and who brought them to the place they find themselves.
The thing is, this literary technique of having this itinerary like stapled onto the like almost still somewhere near the end, right?
Mm.
That was in, at least to my knowledge, a few Mesopotamian texts in like the second millennium. This was just a common thing that they did after describing like in an epic where people went. Sometimes at the end it'd be summarized.
Okay, so Origen in Homilies on Numbers 27:9 interpreted the 42 stopping places as stages of growth in the spiritual life. For example, he writes about Sukkoth. Sukkoth is interpreted as tents. Thus, the first progress of the soul is to be taken away from earthly agitation and to learn that it must dwell in tents, like a wanderer, so that it can be, as it were, ready for battle and meet those who lie in wait for it unhindered and free.
He does that for everything.
This is very
Magic
Origin like.
numbers.
So
Yay!
here's actually something that at some point I would like P-Town to hit on, because if this is kind of like his style of interpreting, right? But if he can cite like a source like Origin, then like okay, well at least it's not being like a made up by him or a modern apologist. This would have been like some ancient Christian commentary on it. So I think P-Town, I think you would very much like the works of Origin, and I think you would definitely like the works of Tertullian. Tertullian is such a troll. I fucking swear. He
Do you have to use the troll word?
well, he kind of is though. Like I tried not to.
So
But I was like,
Oh,
he kind of is. So
Tertullian is
Guys.
horrifying.
he is,
would love
but
him.
he's also very, very funny in like if this was a cartoon kind of way. So like when he talks about Marcion, he implies that Marcion has no brain, which is hilarious. And he also like says horrible stuff about like women, obviously. Like that was like his part of his shtick.
what would it make a difference
With
if he
the-
didn't have a brain? Brains are not good for anything.
Yeah, right. Obviously. So the
Just cools down the blood, no?
he was always very savage when it came to heretics.
He's like the Ibn Ezra of Christianity.
So there you go. so I think you should read up on some of the stuff from church fathers, because then the stuff you would say, at least we could go, okay, well there's some precedent for that in Christian
Well,
church.
There's also
I don't
precedent for arguing
discriminate.
for
I don't
God
even-
from magnets, we don't understand how they work. So that was Augustine.
I'll try to look into that, Lawrence. I don't discriminate though. I don't even really barely listen to current church fathers, Lawrence.
It
Just not
shows.
my thing.
So I did want to mention quickly, Rashi brings down, I guess it's a midrash, that this like a Jewish explanation for this is it's trying to show, okay, there was 42 like major stations in this journey, but if you look at it, you can subtract all the ones that kind of happened in the first year, and then you see that even though they were in the desert for like an extra 40 years, they weren't constantly moving around, because it only leaves you got the
That's why I asked.
14 in the first year, and then the spies are sent out, and then from there they go to Paran, blah blah blah. So more or less you end up with only, and then 8 stages from Aaron to died. So during the whole 38 years, they made only 20 journeys. So it's showing that they didn't like
weren't
every
they
year move around.
Weren't they stagnant for 37 years?
Well,
They
I
do.
think at least one of the places they were for a long time. Oh, at least it's implied
that's
they were just in
why-
the same place. But
That's
if you
why
read the
I asked, 'cause it-
stations, yeah, that's a good question, because like I think if you were to just
I
read
think
it,
they were stagnant for like 37 years, and then what this chapter is doing is describing when they were moving. Now, obviously, it looks like they're
yeah, but during that 37 years, according to this chapter, there's an extra 20 stops that were like the names are like they're not mentioned anywhere else. So I would say that's interesting.
But
just,
those
like,
20
added here.
Those 20 stops though are of the stops outside of that 37 years, right?
It's all within the 38 years.
Or
or whatever.
within the 38 years. Okay.
Yeah, from after the spies go out until Aaron dies or something like that.
Even
Yeah.
still,
Alright.
that would be moving once every 2 years or
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
Idiot.
so according to this
A lot
chapter,
of work
they
just
moved.
to figure it out.
So according to this chapter, they moved more than what the other chapters are saying. So it's interesting.
Maybe just the idea is that they moved a lot more than was mentioned. They only mentioned when they did something and it pissed off God and he killed a bunch of them. Or
Yeah.
some other event happened, which was usually that.
Well, you know,
Right,
the Christians would say that, you know, these, because it does specify where certain things happen. For example, the rock that gave the water, and then you'll have people like Ron Wyatt and some of the subsidiaries that have come and said, hey, look, we found the rock. Look at all the water erosion on this rock that looks like it's split. And then you're like, well, what's the coincidence of this happening? I'm sure you guys would love that.
Don't
You guys love that stuff, don't you?
Are you
don't take the
daring-
bait. Don't take the bait. Arn, do not
All right.
That's bait.
You know, and
I haven't finished Thomas' commentary.
Yay!
Thank you, Isaac.
Ron
Okay, cool,
Wyatt
let's
is
go.
an idiot. Feel free to look it up yourself at home, kids.
Yeah.
don't forget
Uh,
the coral under the sea, right? That's shaped like oh no, he's gonna lose it.
Okay, verse 3.
Aaron brings the big guns.
Yeah.
Verse
Oh,
3.
oh, what
just-
about
I
the
just want people to know what
mountains
a-
that are charred too? You know,
This is
from
what a
the-
good beer looks like. It looks like draining the crankcase in a '65 Chevy. It really does. That's good stuff there.
Cheers.
This would go good on pancakes.
looks like
Mm.
what came out of my brother's
Could
car
go
and
good in
stained my
pancakes.
driveway.
Yes.
All right, verse 3, defiantly. The Hebrew Bible literally reads, with an upraised hand, as in the KJV, and is found in 1530 and Exodus 14:8. Most commentators render it as defiantly. Verse 4, who were burying all their firstborn. Licht writes that although this detail was not mentioned in Exodus, it was added to illustrate the atmosphere as the Israelites were leaving. Verse 9, a limb. Milgrom comments,
Sorry,
the
hold
comment.
on, Isaac.
Wait,
I don't understand that.
Sorry. The for you did you just jump to verse 9?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, I actually had a thing for verse 4 here. So
okay.
in my translation at least, and I would like to know your own translations of the Hebrew, right? So yeah, and the Egyptians were bearing all the firstborn that the Lord had struck down among them, and the Lord had dealt punishment to their gods.
Hmm.
Is that
no.
I just spent 4 hours burying my firstborn.
All
4
right.
hours
Well,
burying
wait,
your
wait, wait.
firstborn?
Asking-
Well, I wouldn't hold still.
asking about punishments to their gods? How would you guys translate that section?
But in their, I read it.
Uvelol
literally.
hehem asad
Velol.
nashvatim.
Yeah,
God?
in their gods,
Like the
the Lord made in judgments.
Okay,
or
okay.
executed judgments.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, there is a story. There is a story about that
Man
during
named
the I'm saying like there's a Jewish midrash or whatever that says that during the plague of the firstborns, the statues of the idols and stuff were destroyed.
Okay. That is interesting. So the Septuagint actually does kind of
It's probably based
agree
on
with
this verse.
that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but so the Septuagint, because I just wanted to check it against the Hebrew, right? So because the phrase to their gods or in in their gods, right? Is used in the Septuagint. Kain tois theos auton. So the Lord made. I guess he made a vengeance. He made the vengeance or the vengeance. It says in their gods. So what's interesting is that while yes, this could be a reference to we talked about this before, right? Where the plague traditions were or have been very recently seen as like direct attacks, direct polemics against specific gods, right? We did discuss that. So while I'm unsure if if that is kind of beneath this or underlying this verse, a lot of scholars have also pointed out that this might be like a reference to like old a remnant of that old Israelite polytheism. And while I am unsure when it comes to the Hebrew, the phrase en tois theos in the gods is, well, in their gods, right? Auton at the end there, is that usage of en there usually just means in. And it's fairly simple to translate that one normally, with at least with the dative, which we have here. The interesting thing is, I was like, how is this being used? This is such a rare usage of a preposition. So I did look it up, and one of the possible definitions would be in the presence of. So I am still unsure as to how the Septuagint authors would have understood this verse, but they definitely maintain that same Hebrew construction. So the idea of God, doling out vengeance in the presence of the gods would be quite interesting. And while altars all like, well, you don't really need that kind of you don't really need like the idea of the Israelite polytheism for it, which is like, sure, it's not really necessary. However, it does show a much closer link to the other gods than is normally portrayed. Because
it does make a lot more sense that way. And
I don't think they would have accepted the Egyptian gods of the time, at least not in their own worship, even in like Israelite polytheism. But the idea that they would have existed but thought to be kind of useless gods perhaps might underlie that.
It's well, and I mean, obviously in the earlier versions they would have just been foreign gods, but I mean Alexandria was Greek, but it was in Egypt. And the whole thing, like the gods, the pharaohs were named for the gods. Tutankhaten became Tutankhamen when he reverted to the original worship of Amen from Aten. But we see that here too, that El is put into a lot of people's names, that this name to this one place is given Baal Meon, and then but these names were changed. It's a mention of Baal and an honoring of Baal in the naming of things. Oh, sorry. Camera problem. Fixed it. Anyway. But with all these things, basically you've got the name of the god is invoked to basically to give sort of the blessing of the god or the protection of the god or the association with the god to that person. And I mean, that's a naming convention in many cultures with multiple gods, and even in Judah, when they worshipped one god. And so that identification could give greater significance to the people they were killing, as a punishment to those gods.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't know about.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'll just say that I don't know about the Greek, but in the Hebrew, I do know biblical Hebrew, especially like prepositions, which are normally, like say in modern Hebrew, this preposition is always translated as to this English version. Doesn't always line up, so it's depending on the verb you use. So if you use this verb, you're supposed to use this preposition, and sometimes in English you would say, you judge. Okay, maybe judge doesn't really have a preposition in English, but like you might say like you do this in something. In Hebrew it might be a letter that normally would be translated as something else. So
like because
I would say to enact judgment in might be the right way of saying it back then.
Okay, so at least in Greek, right, the usage of it, with a person is really weird, or with and in this, before anyone gets to off the rails here, in the linguistic sense, gods are people. So
right.
the usage of in tois theos, so in the gods, is a very rare usage in Greek, which is why it was so interesting to me to see
that it's a direct, like a literal translation.
Yeah, basically, they actually went. At least the Septuagint authors, at least there, did a pretty direct translation.
Mm. All right.
Please
All right,
continue.
let's do comments and
Good
then
job,
I'll
then.
continue.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
Oh, yes,
PhD
comments?
Tony offers $5 Australian and says, "Have you ever gone camping for a weekend and dug a toilet pit? Now do that for 2 million people for 37 years."
Oh gosh.
Ah,
I'm sure if
the
they found
cloud-
I'm sure if they found fossilized poop of 2 million people somewhere, you guys would make up some silly nonsense to explain it.
Oh no, no,
They
no! We
wouldn't
leave
be
the silly
fossilized.
making up of silly nonsense to the apologists.
Arn,
Yeah,
their
like
job.
Arn,
I'm
Arn,
sure
you missed
according to
one
what I
just
was brought
above
up
it.
with.
Arn, you missed one just above that.
Oh,
Living pterodactyl immurement, therefore Squawkney offers $2 and says, "Should have hauled a water tank instead of the ark."
yeah, but they didn't know what pi was. All the water spilled out.
And
Ah.
then Living Pterodactyl Immurement, therefore Squawkney offers $2 more and says, "Hebrews are people, not just a plot device, then and now."
I mean, what? How do you define Hebrews? Those who speak Hebrew, or
Probably, yeah. And I would say
mean-
that then is questionable because if we're talking about when the story is placed, we don't necessarily know if there was people speaking Hebrew.
In this story, the people are definitely a plot device. They serve as the ones to blame for whatever God screws up.
Yeah, and PhD Tony, like in the Jewish tradition, like you don't have to worry about the digging toilets. The clouds of glory wipe their asses.
Downy soft.
Or there may have been something about the manna is so healthy that there was no waste product.
Yeah, I was on a paleontological expedition last year where we were so far out into the wilderness, out into the Badlands, that we would just wander off into the dunes with a roll of toilet paper wrapped around a shovel.
I use leaves from trees.
Yeah, but this is the desert. Strange
We're in your
shortage.
garden, P-Town?
What's
Don't
that?
do that in England.
I said we're in your garden, P-Town?
I've done it in England on a golf course.
I was gonna say don't do that
My
in England
dad-
because we have a lot of nettles.
Yeah. Oh, in England, yeah, those are serious nettles. We don't have those over here. Those are
Yeah,
nasty.
I could say that I've done it
Don't
on a
do
golf
that.
course too, but I think we'd be talking about different things.
Hopefully something that would not involve wiping your ass with a nettle.
And people say they have trouble finding their balls on in the golf course.
Ah.
All right, shall we? Oh, there's one
no,
more.
there is another one.
Yep. Grady Matt says, "Happy Halloween, Oren, and everyone on the panel today. Hail Satan, hail thyself." Thank you for that.
All right.
Verse 9.
Verse 9. Oh yeah, Elim again. Milgram comments. So I think it's because the verse that mentions what happened there, right? So
Yes.
the comment is typical of ancient Near Eastern military itineraries, an account of the source of water and food. Targo Sodom Jonathan.
No, Targums Pseudo Jonathan would seek.
Would seek a loftier significance. In Elim, there were 12 fountains of water for the 12 tribes, and 70 palm trees corresponding to the 70 sages mentioned in 1116. Uyun Musa, the springs of Moses, a large oasis just south of Suez along the eastern coast, has been suggested. Today, it has 12 wells and palm and tamarisk groves, the latter the natural source for the manna.
Yeah, I mentioned it in my Exodus commentary.
Oh, natural source for the manna. Very interesting.
Tamarisk. Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned it in my Exodus commentary. I
Not
think it was
sesame?
Alan Shulov. No, there's like a hypothesis that it originates from like insects. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
I mentioned it in my commentary on Exodus. I can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
exactly the whole lot.
Oh yeah, like dew, whatever. All right, verse 10, the Red Sea. The Hebrew says Yam Suf, Sea of Reeds. Ashley comments, it is surprising that the Yam Suf is not mentioned until 3 stops after the crossing through the midst of the sea. This has led some to conclude that the tradition connecting the Reed Sea with the place of deliverance through the water is a later combining of traditions that did not originally belong together. It is true that some texts speak of going through the sea, but do not mention Yam Suf at all. It is also true that a great deal of a biblical tradition does make this connection. If one concludes that one must interpret these texts as a whole, then the places that merely mention going through the sea must be interpreted in the light of those that make the connection with Yam Suf, which clearly became the dominant biblical tradition. If this is the case, then the present reference is to another encampment. So if the splitting of the sea happened earlier on, then this must be like they camped next to the Sea of Reeds at another time.
Yeah, because that totally makes sense. It's just like, yeah, it's just like.
I wonder if that's connected to this idea. Well, I can't remember what it was based on, but there's like one of the Jewish commentators says that when they split the Red Sea, they didn't cross from like the west to the east bank. It was like a semicircle. So they went in and came out on the same side.
Oh, right. They did the loop-de-loop.
Yeah, which
To
and
fake
then I
out
guess
the Egyptians.
yeah, and so then camping by the Red Sea would have been like when they came back to it on the east side, maybe. Maybe that's based on this. I don't know. Okay, verse 18 to 29. Milgram comments: none of these stations is mentioned elsewhere. Possibly verse 18 has suffered haplography and should be read
Where?
Chazroth, and they encamped in the wilderness of Paran, and they set out from the wilderness of Paran, and they encamped in
Can I just
Ritma.
question something real quick?
Yes.
I'm not following what you're saying, Isaac.
Yeah.
You're saying someone has said that they crossed the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, and then went back around the Gulf to come from behind to take out the Egyptians.
No.
This is a
No,
viewpoint.
no, it's just that they
It doesn't
didn't
make
go
any
in.
sense according to the Bible.
God didn't do the miracle of the Red Sea to allow them to cross from one side to the other to make the journey shorter or anything. It was just to save them. So they went in and came back out.
It's like a
further.
I guess I'm not following this interpretation and how it.
So
could
let's say
possibly be.
here's the Red Sea. They're encamped on the east side or the west side. Instead of going across, it wasn't about making the journey quicker. It was just about saving them. So they went in and came back out on the same side, and then they journeyed up into the desert like the normal way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which I think it explains like why they would have gone to those.
The wall was just the
encampments
wall of water
mentioned.
was just a semicircle, and they came back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the idea that it was more of like a tunnel than just a wall, and separate tunnels for each tribe. But I don't know if those are the same commentary or separate ones. I think it probably was something to do with, like the encampment where they went to next was like northwest of the Red Sea. So like if they had gone across, then they would have had to gone back to get to that encampment. So it makes sense that the journey inside the Red Sea was a semicircle. Also, it takes a long time to cross. If you were to walk across the Red Sea, it's quite a wide distance.
Well, according to the Bible, they did take a long time doing it, right? It was at least, I know it was more than one day. Wasn't it a couple days? A couple nights, right? Yeah, because
maybe
they camped. They camped
probably
overnight.
I think it was. They didn't camp out in the water, so
there was one night they were in the water, right?
I think it was that evening the Egyptians came in, and that's when they came out again.
No,
I think it would have been.
Pretty sure they spent a night.
Day. No, they traveled through the night. The wind spent
Yeah,
all
that's
day clearing.
They traveled
the
through the
water
night,
for them,
but it was at least one night.
No,
Okay.
it
So
was
it was overnight.
Therefore, we know
overnight.
it was overnight.
They traveled at night.
That
It was
sense.
one night.
All right. So yeah, 1829. Milgram comments. None of these stations are mentioned elsewhere. So he was saying that, but possibly verse 18. What's a haplography?
Haplography is like a corruption of the text, or like scribal error.
Scribal error, right? And should read Chatzroth, and they encamped in the wilderness of Paran, and they set out from the wilderness of Paran, and they encamped in Ritma. The area occupied by these stations, identified with the desert of Paran, is covered with gravel and contains little vegetation and scant sources of water, fitting the description we sent out from Horeb, which is Sinai, and traveled the great and terrible wilderness, and in Deuteronomy 1:19. Verse 38. The first day of the 5th month of the 40th year. Ashley comments, this information is not given elsewhere. It serves to mark the fact that Aaron's death, the 40 years of punishment were nearly at an end. According to 20 verse 1, the Israelites came back to Kadesh in the first month, but with no day or year given. It is possible, as was noted above, that the 40th year was intended. This would mean that Israel remained at Kadesh for 3 to 4 months before moving off to Mount Hor.
The noted above was from Ashley's original commentary. I should have removed it. Sorry.
Sorry? Did I not?
The as was noted above was from Ashley's original commentary, and I removed it. That's my.
Oh, I see. Okay. Rashi writes that at the Lord's command, Hebrew al-pi Yehovah, literally by the mouth of the Lord, means that Aaron died by the divine kiss. Verse 52, carved images. Hebrew
No,
is.
we haven't read.
Oh yeah, you went up.
Yeah.
That's quite a big. That's a big jump.
The
Yes.
divine kiss. What did he eat?
Okay. I'll continue on. And the Canaanite king of Arad, who dwelt in the Negev in the land of Canaan, learned of the coming of the Israelites. They set out from Mount Hor and encamped at Salmona. They set out from Salmona and encamped at Punon. They set out from Punon and encamped at Ovot. They set out from Obot and encamped at Iyei Ha'avarim in the territory of Moab. They set out from Iyim and encamped at Divon Gad. They set out from Divon Gad and encamped at Almon Deblathaima. They set out from Almon Diblathaima and encamped in the hills of Avarim before Nebo. They set out from the hills of Avarim and encamped in the steeps of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. They encamped by the Jordan from Beth Hayesimot as far as Abel Shittim in the steeps of Moab. In the steeps of Moab at the Jordan in Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall dispossess all the inhabitants of the land. You shall destroy all their figured objects. You shall destroy all their molten images, and you shall demolish all their cult places. And you shall take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have assigned the land to you to possess. You shall apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan. With larger groups, increase the share. With smaller groups, reduce the share. Wherever the lot falls for anyone, that shall be his. You shall have your portions according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land, those whom you allow to remain shall be stings in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and they shall harass you in the land in which you live, so that I will do to you what I plan to do to them."
Oh, look, it's the justification for genocide again. It's been a whole 5 minutes since God pulled that one out.
Do you want to read my commentary, Isaac?
Yep, let's go. What was it? 55? 52. Carved images. The Hebrew is maskiyotam. The words maskiyat.
Mesquite.
Mesquite. Yeah, that makes sense. It is also found in Leviticus 26:1, in parallel with other items of worship. The
I think I
Septuagint,
mentioned it in my commentary.
a Septuagint reads their lookouts. Targums, houses of worship. Ashley writes that in post-biblical Aramaic, the verb seka means look out, to watch, and that it is possible that the Septuagint translator thought that maskiotam was derived from a Hebrew cognate. Levine and Milgram translate it as figurative objects, Ashley as carved figures. Okay, so that's the discrepancy. Okay, verse 55, barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. The Hebrew for barbs is sikkim, which is a hapax. Milgram notes the Akkadian cognate, shikatu, can mean a nail or a point, and shakaku, be pointed. Likewise, the Vulgate nails. Septuagint and Ibn Ezra, Rashbam, says thorns. Hebrew for thorns in NIV is sininim. Levine writes that it is a variant of sinim in Proverbs 22:5 and Job 5:5, which refers to thorns or hooks. The Septuagint, Vulgate, and Peshitta render it as spears, and Milgram comments, the stings, barbs in NIV, and thorns imply acts of physical violence committed against the Israelites by the remaining Canaanite enclaves, as indicated by the following clause. They shall harass you. However, the two clauses may also convey discrete meanings. In the parallel passages, stings and spawns are either bracketed with or replaced by snares and traps. See Exodus 23:33, 34:12, and Deuteronomy 7:16, as well as Joshua 23:13, implying that the remaining inhabitants will entice the Israelites to embrace their religion. Nachmanides. This danger is stated explicitly in Exodus 23:33. They shall not remain in your land, lest they cause you to sin against me, for you will serve their gods, and it will prove a snare to you. This interpretation is supported by the literary structure of this pericope. Pericope? Pericope.
It's pericope, yeah.
Yeah. What does it mean?
It's just
Like
like a
section,
story,
like-
like a section of a story, like
okay.
a narrative, yeah.
Okay.
God is giving me a migraine again.
I have finished Thomas' commentary for 33.
Living pterodactyl allurement, therefore squawkney. Please don't use that name next time. Offers $2 and says a rare convergence. Halloween and Taco Tuesday.
Praise be.
Yeah.
Oh. So what do we call it when we compare a bunch of people to insects and dehumanize them and state that should they, defend their lands from an invading army, we have to kill them all and their children and their children's children, because otherwise they'll be a pain in the ass forever? What is that called again? What's that called? Is it oh, right, it's divine absolute perfect morality. Sorry, just blonde moment.
Yeah.
All right, so do we
All
have time to do the next chapter?
I'm going to leave that up to y'all to decide.
I mean, I've prepared. I thought I would read it to Saturday because I prepared an image and I didn't send it to Peter.
Yeah, I think
so
I do have kind of some projects to get to. So
yeah,
but I do want on Saturday. Maybe we should finish with numbers.
Yeah, I think
on
Saturday we'll try to power through it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, my commentaries on these chapters. It's 3 chapters. My commentaries aren't very long for these chapters. At numbers 35 maybe, but it's we can power through this. And chapter 36 is short. It's like 13 verses. So
yeah, it'd be good to have a visual, like a map.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Bucket of Chuckles. Thank you guys very much.
Make sure you guys join Friday Apocryphal Podcast on Fridays.
Yes.
Notifications will be put on the Discord, so join that.
Yeah, Lawrence, let me know how I can promote that. Let me give me a link that I can share in social media or whatever before that happens at an appropriate time. Okay.
Oh, I mean, sure. You're gonna be getting a lot of links then, because we do the shows twice a week. But yeah.
Well, I haven't been promoting the one on Friday.
Oh yeah, well that one, yeah, that's just like a secondary one, right? Like we do Apocryphal Works, and it's a lot of fun. But it's the same format basically. Like
okay,
yeah,
okay. I just want to promote you.
I appreciate that, but everyone should go subscribe to Milwaukee Atheists because we do good stuff. I'm gonna be
join the Discord.
Yeah, and join the Discord. I'll be doing upcoming projects. Gonna be doing a video on the cult of St. Patrick. Gonna be doing one on how the Bible assumes a flat Earth. I'm got a couple. Oh, also one on the cult of Thecla as well. So
the cult of Thecla.
Those
Very
are
nice.
those are some upcoming ones that I'll be trying to
sure
try
they're
my
not
best to get
biased
through.
at all.
And all the relevant links
Well,
are in
everyone's
the
got a
chat.
bias,
All the
but
relevant links
they're
are in
all
chat.
reasonable.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Hasta la pasta y bias nachos.